Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could be with us today. For our audience tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, we're glad you could be with us. We're welcoming our friend now on Instagram as well. Glad you all could join us. And we're about to connect with our friends over on Amazon Live. I'm excited about today's broadcast. Our guest is making his first appearance with us here on Amazon Live. And we're live now on Amazon Live for Cyrus Webb Presents. If you guys are new to us, welcome. Make sure you guys hit that follow button. You see either here in this corner or down below. You also will see the paperback and Kindle edition of our next guest. Author Don Johnston is making his first appearance on our broadcast to talk about his love of writing and storytelling and his powerful new book, By Means of Peace. It's perfect for National Reading Month. We're so glad to have him on with us. Don, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me, Cyrus. I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to talking to you for weeks now, and we're going to do it.
Yes, I'm excited about this, Don. And I have to say, I tell people this is why I actually read the books of the guest, Don, because when I first started reading this book, I thought, man, this book, talk about timely. It is so powerful. It is a novel. We should let our audience know, but I think anyone who reads it will be able to see, you know what, some similarities of things happening in the world. So let's start there, Don. What has it been like for you to see the response to the book so far?
The response has been good, and I think that anyone who reads it will see what I can probably see what I was thinking. I started this book at the midterm elections when I saw that it was getting kind of hostile, and I realized, at least I thought, I said, everybody's going to vote along party lines, and then the thought groupthink popped into my mind, and that was what a lot of people would do. And though my main purpose that people would enjoy the book, one of the things I don't know what I start saying it was subliminal. It might have not been, but it was think for yourself. Is one of the themes that pops up in the book as well. So I wrote it with the past presidential election in mind, and I know you read the book, so you saw it was a third party president that won the election. I later told my friends I must have been a coward because I didn't want to make any of my Democrat friends mad or any of my Republican friends mad. So I just had it be a third party president. But as you know from the book, he wins big and he does so many good things that he wins his second term by acclamation. That no one dares run against him, and then all kinds of things go wrong, and many people continue to trust the president completely, but people began to think that he is creating these problems in order to control them. So that's more the overall theme of the book.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this on the record, Don. When the book is optioned for a movie, which it will be, I want you to come back here and tell me all about that experience. Because when I was reading By Means of Peace, I think there's so many things that come up. One is people are searching for answers. People want solutions. But I think one thing that also that your book shows, and you brought up the term groupthink, is that a lot of times we give up so much of ourselves, not thinking about what the consequences can be. And I can be very transparent. There's a lot of conversations about even what we are able to put on social media and other forums, right? And people, we like the convenience of it, but we don't always think about the fine print of what it all means. How much of that has been a part of your thinking, Don, that kind of led to the book?
That's been my way of thinking all my life. But as Cyrus, you may have glanced at my autobiography there. I'm 88 years old, and so as I get older, I say, okay, maybe all of these things the bits of knowledge and information I picked up here, I hope that, let's say, turn into wisdom. There's a little bit of difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing something, and wisdom is using it, and I would say also imparting it to others in a way that's helpful. So, so my main theme, my main goal is for people to enjoy the book. I do want them to think about the power of individual thought and pursuing your own dreams instead of let's say, a dream assigned to you by someone else.
Yeah. Let's go back. You mentioned your bio, and that was one of the things that once I finished the book, I was curious what else had he written, because this was my first book to read of yours done. And I saw on Amazon here, our friends can see it on the Amazon side. You've written other books too. You've also talked about finance in your books too. Have you always been a person who was just interested in different topics and wanted to share that?
I was always I was a very curious person all of my life and wanted to see things, know how things worked, and that sort of thing. And that really is probably why I went into the world of science. And I'm a chemist and a bacteriologist, and I had written technical reports until I retired, and I missed writing. A lot of people say I was glad I didn't have to write any more reports. So that I didn't start writing. I didn't start writing for fun until I was 80 years old. And I wrote 3 novels. The first one was the name of it's the Darlumbri Chronicles. That's just the person's name. It actually means to give light in Spanish. Then I wrote the Alamogordo Connection. It's about deciphering a message from outer space. But this one, By Means of Peace, it gets fabulous reviews from Kirkus and other professionals, and essentially the same from the reviewers on Amazon. So I would have to say that I learned a little bit by writing each one. And then I wrote a book about the stock market called Stock Picking Revisited, but it was just about how to pick stocks that would consistently beat the Dow Jones. But I would have to say, of the 4 books I've written since turning 80, my goal is to write one every 2 years, and I have another about half finished. But anyway, wow. So I think By Means of Peace is the best one that I'm just judging by what the viewers, the reviewers on Amazon say, and even what the professional. I've heard it said that everybody that writes a book thinks he just wrote The Grapes of Wrath, and that doesn't always turn out to be that way. So we all like our books, or we wouldn't be writing them.
Right. And that means so much. And what I will say is, I know that as audiences find out about this book, which is why we're so glad to have you, not just on Amazon, but also on our social media platforms, Don, I think they will find it. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, welcome. You're watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm excited to welcome author Don Johnston to our broadcast today. Don's the author of this book, By Means of Peace, that's out now. For our friends joining us on Amazon, you guys can get the Kindle edition for only $2.99. You guys can see it there, or you can get the paperback there for $12.99. I want to go into the book a little bit, Don, and kind of whet our audience appetite, because I love the fact that there are 3 things, in my opinion, as a reader, that are taking place. One, of course, there are the problems that the world is facing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then 2, people making a decision about how they're going to address those problems. And as you mentioned, the candidate that becomes president is that person that people are looking to, because quite honestly, they don't believe the other they don't believe the other 2 parties know what they're doing.
That's right.
And so it really goes into the 3rd thing. And you show this so well in By Means of Peace, that there will always be people, though, who want to do what's right. And I think that is a group that I hope our audience really takes in, because I think a lot of times people can get dejected, Don, by looking at the world and saying, well, nothing's going right, or this person is doing this. But instead of realizing there will always be people who show up in history who want to stand up for what's right. What was it like for you to bring into this book as you kind of dealt with the challenges that the characters were dealing with?
Well, first of all, I would say you analyzed my book perfectly. You described exactly what I wanted to do. This big problem. That's how you got to start any book, I guess. You have a problem or a situation that comes up, and then you create the characters that have to work with that problem, and people are different. And so many people are going to think, okay, this 3rd-party candidate, everybody said, this guy is so charismatic, it's unbelievable. He knows how to do everything. And then, even the protagonists in the book, who are the ones that began to decide that he is creating problems to control the nation, they at first are won over, and then they begin to see things that are not going right, and trouble's breaking out on every front, and then they think that the utopian dream that they had is not going to come true after all, that things are going wrong, and that he is indeed using these problems to control them. But that's the way I started it off, and that's the way I tried to present my characters. I worked hard on my characters over the 3 books. I think they're better in this one than they are in any others.
Love that. I want to talk about Reuben for a moment, who, of course, becomes president. One of the turning points for me, and this is where I think you've gotten it so true to realism today, Don, is when he starts talking in the book about why we have to make some adjustments to free speech and what's allowed with the First Amendment. When I got to that part of the book, and I'm not spoiling anything by mentioning that, but when I got to that part of the book, I thought, you know what? I don't, for one, I remember in school learning about it, but how many people today even know what the First Amendment says? You know, that's one thing. But then, two, the importance of it. What was it like for you to think about that? How things that have kind of been considered not only law but institutional, like the First Amendment, like free speech, are being challenged in the world.
That free speech is a topic that is will always be discussed and argued about, because there'll always be one group that wants to censor some other group while they themselves continue to have free speech. And then you get down to controlling just certain words. My favorite author is a science fiction author, Philip K. Dick, and he said if you can control the meaning of words, you can control the people that must use those words. And I said, that is a pretty wise saying there. And so we see that all the time. It's always one group, though, that whoever it is on either side of the aisle, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If they're trying to censor the other people, they try to maintain free speech for themselves. That's what I've seen. I'll say among Democrats, Republicans, independents, and everybody else for the most part.
Yeah.
So we all have to have free speech, or nobody has to have it.
Right. And I think, to me, and I think it is for a lot of people today, Don, when you're hearing someone like the leader of the free world saying this, right, that then, of course, is going to have people make a decision. And that's what we kind of see in the book, that people are like, wait a minute, I like what you're doing, you know, but this is something that is, you know, a step that they feel like is too far. And I think it goes to that struggle that we find, right? What do you find that when you were writing the book By Means of Peace, Don, that one of the big issues is how this even happened is us not wanting to take personal responsibility as human beings?
I did. I thought that, and that was my main theme. I thought about it. I may have mentioned it was groupthink. I said everybody, and we need leaders, and we need people that are charismatic. I look back at some of the presidents, and I'll name two of them. You're too young to remember some of them, but anyway, John F. Kennedy, a Democrat, was very charismatic, and therefore he could work across the aisle. Ronald Reagan, a Republican. I named one Democrat and one Republican, both who could give a speech and people would listen, and it was primarily because they were charismatic, good speaker type of thing. So a leader needs that, but I guess if he goes too far with it, where he always gets his way, it's been carried too far.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. When you wrote By Means of Peace, did you think this was the end of the story, Don, or do you feel like you'll revisit some of these characters again?
I'm going to tell you something funny, Cyrus. Almost everyone has said I ought to do a sequel, and I didn't even think about it. Even Kirkus Reviews, which first I gave it to two or three of my close friends around here, 5 or 6 of them really, and they said, "Okay, you're working on a sequel." I was already working on another book, and so almost everyone says this book demands a sequel. Only trouble is I got them in so many problems, I don't know how I could get them out.
Well, that's a really good point. Oh, what about a prequel then? Because he did it so far in the future, maybe to see how we got there.
Yeah. Well, my next one is somewhat like that. The one I'm working on now is about AI, and so much of that. And I was going to call it. I was going to call it City on a Microchip, which I like that title. But then, and then at the end, I shouldn't give this my next book away because I hadn't written it yet. But anyway, there's going to be a wedding on the moon, and so I decided.
Oh wow!
So my working title for it now is Moonbeams and Microchips. So
wow.
I'm trying to tie the AI world into the real world with a wedding on the moon. So that sounds like a pretty good challenge. I've already got about close to 30,000 words. But the last 2 or 3 weeks, I realized that I messed up in the first chapter and I needed some more foreshadowing. So I've been, once you do something to the first chapter, you got to be sure you haven't messed up the rest of them. So I've been working on that. Don't seem to be making any progress, but I'm ready to launch into some new chapters now. But anyway, it's sort of a prequel to that, in that it will be before this. When I thought about it, I put by means of peace a little too far in the future, because some of these things we're seeing, we're going to see within the next few years, I guess.
Yeah. It is such a powerful thing. I want to go back as we wrap up here, Don, and I really appreciate this time with you.
I love it.
You talked about, of course, your love of sharing and your excitement. Don has said to me before we went live here that, we share an excitement for wanting to motivate people, but I love just your excitement for life. I share that for you as well. What keeps this all fun for you at this point? Because it's not like this is something you have to do. What keeps writing and sharing? What keeps it fun for you?
Well, the one thing I would, I would love for this book to turn into a New York Times bestseller and that sort of thing. But nevertheless, I am really writing strictly for fun now. I am comfortably retired. I'm writing for fun. And I've told some of my friends, I said, if I could, I'd give away 1 million of these books. And I actually did have a giveaway a couple of months ago, made it free on Amazon and put that out. So I gave away about 5,000 of them, and I'm getting some, reviews from those people as they slowly read it. But I it's just part of me. I wrote many technical reports, and when I totally retired, I didn't really totally retire until I was 80. I kind of missed writing, although I'd never written just for fun. Well, that's not true. When I was in the Air Force, I was in the Panama Canal for 3.5 years in that area, and I wrote for the base newspaper, but it was just a gossip column. I mean, I was a 19-year-old kid with only a high school education at that point, and so the editor of the paper asked me, would you like, it was just to find out what was going on in my outfit. It was a weekly newspaper, like used to be out in the rural areas of Texas and other places as well. So I did that for 3.5 years, and I wrote one short story there. There were many military bases in Panama. I won second prize on a short, and then I never wrote any more fiction until I was 80. I mean, from about 20 to 80, there's a 60-year gap in writing any fiction. But I realized that I did, when I retired completely, I realized that I did miss writing. A lot of people might say, I'm glad I got out of it. I don't have to write those reports anymore. But I said, I have the time. And so I usually write a little bit every morning, a couple hours, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you did, and so glad that you're doing that. And I can't wait to have you back on, Don, to talk about the new book. But in the meantime, we want our audience to pick up their copy of By Means of Peace by Don Johnston. It's available here on Amazon, as I mentioned earlier. I'm going to highlight it again for you guys. You can get the paperback there for $12.99. Also, there is a Kindle edition there for $2.99. You guys can be able to get as well. Make sure you guys do share your thoughts. Again, it's National Reading Month, so a great opportunity to pick up a great book. Don, I appreciate you stopping by. How can our audience stay connected with you?
Well, on Facebook is the best way, and that's another thing, Cyrus, that I have failed to build a platform like most indie authors do. And I love writing, but I didn't do the. I guess I didn't get set up to promote my books like most people do. I may need to do that yet, but Facebook is the best way to get in touch with it.
Okay, I'll make sure that we tag you there. Don, congratulations again. Thank you so much for stopping by, and looking forward to our next chat together.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we thank you, our audience, for tuning in to another great segment of Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, you all make it a great one. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.